Hello, everybody. Thanks again for stopping by the Egg Zero A Roundtable. Damon Postalka here. Andrew Cross may show up in a minute. We'll see. But with me today, I've got Allison Deford, Felt Marketing, Ray Ziganto from Lenara International. And if you haven't seen them already, these two are the hosts of MFG OutLoud. Check it out on LinkedIn and all the other cool places they got it rolling. But so excited to have you guys here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, Damon, thanks so much.
Oh, rocking. It's good to get you guys on. I mean, you guys work in an industry that I get excited about. I mean, you guys saw when you had me on, I get a little crazy about this stuff. But I think it's really interesting now to see your show, watch your show, and the people that you got going on. It's good to see that there's almost kind of a revival in manufacturing because COVID caused some good things to happen, I think, along with the bad. So it's really been an interesting thing to see. We got Andrew Cross stopping by too. So
awesome. Hey, Andrew.
Hey guys.
All right.
Good to see you.
Right. So tell me a little bit about, first of all, Allison, tell me a little bit about your history with Felt Marketing. I mean, you've had the company for a while now, and it's not your first year in manufacturing marketing. But tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, kind of stumbled into it like many of my clients. You know, they said I didn't choose manufacturing, it chose me. And I really feel the same way, kind of the way Ray and I met. And so quite honestly, manufacturers are the hero of our story. Truly, they're challenged, I think now more than ever, with staying profitable and relevant in a changing at the speed of COVID kind of world. And I think marketing needs a rebrand because I think a lot of the senior leaders that I work with, they don't trust it.
Yeah.
And they don't know who to trust. So they're looking for that. They don't know which parts and pieces they should use because there's so many now, right? You hear all this digital conversation and social and they're like, what the heck? I don't even know where to start. And they don't want to waste money. So we decided I've been doing this since 94, and we decided a long time ago, probably a decade ago, that we realized this was our niche, you know, and if you dive in a little deeper, it's building materials manufacturers. So we are the only retrofit company for manufacturers who want to get to the heart of their ideal customer. And why that's important, and this is weird in manufacturing because everybody's always been like head, not necessarily heart, if you will, in terms of the way they communicate with people. So we help you get to the heart of your customer because that's how they make decisions 90% of the time is emotional. Yet everybody was so busy, you know, doing features and benefits bingo. I think I would give a TM to Mark Roberts for that. And that's speaking to the rational side of the brain. So that's like this much. So we help them speak to the bigger part. And we do that with a system we created called a retrofit. And, you know, all that means is helping them take their traditional system and adding modern components to make sales easier. Again, something other marketing firms weren't really talking about 10 years ago when we decided on this positioning. Because really, you don't want more marketing, you want more sales. So let's focus on that.
It's interesting you say that because I always, whenever someone says marketing to me, I just get sick in my stomach and want to throw up on my shoes. Because you're right. Every manufacturer has been approached by somebody that says, "Oh, I'm a marketer," and they probably haven't sold a whole heck of a lot. And I'm not saying there's great marketers out there, and there are. But you're talking about something I think is the heart of this issue is that if it doesn't drive sales, it's not worth doing.
Right.
Well, I always was really confused by the fact that, you know, everybody slaps a title on, especially in a small manufacturing business. This is our sales and marketing guy.
Right.
Like, you know, why not? Just like a little bolt on there, but they're completely different things.
Yeah.
Well, and it's still happening, as you guys know. And I think that's the thing that I feel so excited to help in that situation, because small to mid-sized manufacturers, that's our sweet spot, right? Ray and I work separately with our own companies, but then we've worked in tandem with many manufacturers because Ray has he's the inside guy, right? That's why I call him the unicorn.
Yeah.
He has that internal CEO mentality. He's run the company. He understands sales is the language he speaks, but he knows marketing and he gets it. And he knows how, they're supposed to work together, like bridge that gap.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how we got together.
And that's what I've seen. That disconnect. You brought up a good point about sales and marketing are different, but they're certainly related. And depending on the organization, and especially today, there's more of a blending than there used to be. You can no longer put them in their silos, because if from my perspective, Damon, like you said, if it doesn't drive sales, why are we doing it? So if you understand the role and responsibility for marketing, and that's connected to sales, please God, somebody tell manufacturing and operations what you're doing. Because if you don't close that loop, and I've been in the meetings, it's like that new campaign is great, but we don't do that. That's not something we can deliver on. But it tested well.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I think, talking to manufacturers, and I've worked with, Damon and I were both in manufacturing for many years. It is, to put it in their language, the marketing is the tools. You gotta take the time to do the tooling. You got to tool up, and get this thing ready before you go to production. And the salespeople are out there. If they're on the line with their tools, and I've had so many of them. I watch and I scratch my head, because the owner, and that's where the marketing comes from at a strategic level, has to invest that time into it too, to understand what they are selling. Because a lot of them just say, "Hey, go sell."
Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing, it's funny you mentioned tooling, because depending on the size of the organization, I come out of a tooling intensive background, injection molding, metal stamping, those types of things. And the hierarchy of IQs, independent of measure, is, well, there's the tool maker and then there's everybody else. Maybe the accountant, because they're watching the owner's wallet. And it's no disrespect to the tool makers, but the days are long past where there's enough slop in the system to allow for any segment of the organization to not be using the latest tools, never mind not being properly engaged with the customer and the market. It's like, snap out of it. They're not coming to you because you can engrave the Lord's Prayer on the head of a pin. They're coming to you because you solved their business problem. It's a different world.
Absolutely right.
It really is. And so backing up again to felt. Now, I didn't realize that you were in building materials. That's kind of an interesting niche, but you're in California, so I can kind of see that after putting the two and two together there.
Yeah. Kind of, again, stumbled into that. My husband's in the lumber industry, and we started meeting people. God, this was a really long time ago. And a lot of building materials customers, and I just really fell in love with it. And I saw the same issues crop up for them that I see with my other manufacturing clients, is that they're usually behind. They're more traditional.
Yeah.
Okay. But we have the skills and we can guide them to bring it up to be a lot more relevant and not overwhelm them. And we also speak the language of their customers. So it's not like you're reinventing the wheel every time you hire us. We already know your customers. We already speak their language, and they're the most important. They're the hero of the story. So that's what's been a lot of fun, is to really be of service.
Well, and let's talk about Ray a minute, because now Ray, I mean, you and I, when we first talked, I mean, you come from molding. I mean, that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in molding. I was, as I told you before, I started off in college drafting molds by hand, on the big tables and stuff. But you're from Chicago now. You got a whole different set of, there's not many wood manufacturers around where you're at compared to everything else. So.
No, my background's in, it's the old school tool and die job shop, Midwestern kind of, whether it's supporting the auto industry or back in the day, everybody was a vendor to Motorola because they were in our backyard, or Caterpillar or Deere, or, and the zillions of other, mid-tier companies, along the way, that were here. So, I grew up on that. And part of that, and we talked about this, that Midwestern, work ethic where there's a perceived linear relationship between effort and reward. It's like, well, if I want to do more, I got to work harder. And then along comes technology and process and actually, talking to your people and God forbid you actually do some of those things. And then here comes double-digit growth nobody saw coming. And I might have a benefit because I'm an engineer by osmosis. I've just been around it for so long. I don't have a lot of formal training. I have some, but it's just I had a knack for it. I was fortunate enough growing up. My dad didn't have a man cave back in the 60s. That wasn't a thing, but he did have a shop.
Yeah,
he had the pine, the paneled and the saws and the and the lathe, and that was my toy box. That's where I went and played, and so I just had an affinity for it, and fortunately through luck and divine intervention, and I met a guy that owned the factories, standing around a keg of beer at a friend's graduation party, and landed a first job. So
there you go. Well, Andrew's a fellow Midwesterner there out of the Detroit area. He grew up in the automotive industry and cut his teeth there. So
fifth generation tool makers in Detroit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Literally.
Awesome.
Yeah. Down starting with outboard fittings out on Lake St. Clair.
Oh yeah.
Outboard, and then into automation tool design.
Cool.
Transfer machines, that kind of stuff. Whole family business, but.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I still get
all better now, though.
Recovering. You're a recovering manufacturer.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man,
that's for sure. It definitely gets in your blood.
Yeah, it does. Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it does. And when you talk about Allison, when you talk about wood products, I've only run one company that made wood products, and I'll tell you what, when you make that kind of stuff and you make it in volume, I used to just like to walk in the factory and just rub my hand down it because good wood fixtures, I don't care if it's utilitarian or what. I mean, just the combination of wood and metal and wow, it's just something when you see them made and see the craftsmanship that goes into it. Not unlike anything else, but wood, I think, because of the feel, is a little special.
Well, Allison, I like the idea of talking about the manufacturer as the hero, which is really cool because I think we did a lot of work. I did stuff with the Society of Manufacturing Engineers. It's been a few years since I did that, but it was really cool because their main focus was, man, we got an image problem in manufacturing. That was like we're running out of skilled machinists. We can't find people to do this work. Because part of the problem is kids, you can make a super nice living because in the trades or becoming a machinist, but in schools they're teaching you that you're it's kind of got this image of all grimy smokestacks and stuff, and it isn't like that at all, So these guys were passionate about manufacturing and working at the school level to try and convince kids, hey, this is a great career, a great job to have. It is the only industry in the world that actually makes wealth and creates.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's true. Everybody else just moves money around.
The thing that I fell in love with, and I'm from the Midwest too. I grew up in Indiana.
Oh wow!
And so I have a real appreciation for what you were talking about in the family business, and it's lost my train of thought, and we're live. How great is that?
I lost my name the other day on one of these. I think it was so nothing there, but
man, it's like just move on because I literally just lost it, so I'll get it back.
Well,
we're for now. We'll just wait. It's okay.
Whichever one.
Well, the good thing about it is with four of us on here and a little bit to talk about, you guys have this MFG OutLoud thing. Tell me how you came together and you guys were like, how did you meet and then go, okay, let's try this. Let's do this.
Do you want to tell the story or do you want me to?
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
Well, I made some big changes in my business a couple years ago, and in looking to, I think, make some modifications, I ended up starting to meet more people on LinkedIn. I've played on LinkedIn. That's been my sandbox for like 15 years, as I say, way before it was cool. And I really believe in it. Well, this guy with a funny mustache kind of caught my attention with his banter, and I thought, this guy's my people. And so we reached out. I don't remember who reached out first, but it's like my brother from another mother. And I realized, you know what? There's something really interesting here because, like I said, he's that inside guy, and then who understands marketing and how it connects to sales. I'm the sale or the marketing expert who loves and lives for manufacturing. And so it was just like the universe just brought us together. And what, about a year and a half ago, well, before that, we started working with clients together. They would fly us in. We do our breakthrough boot camp. We help them with strategy, and then Ray helps them on the sales side. But we came up with this idea, and I said, you know what? I've always wanted to do a podcast. And I think manufacturing could use one more, because there are only a handful when we had this idea, or less. And the rest is history. We really just, I said, I don't know how to start a podcast. And he said, I don't either. And I said, well, we'll figure it out.
We're starting a podcast.
So yeah, we launched it this year on St. Patrick's Day at the beginning of a pandemic, because why not?
That's right.
Well, it's interesting. I think that, you're touching on something too, that is also, I think, a struggle for manufacturers is that, they kind of communicate in their own language, and they're great talking amongst themselves, and they're super smart, so they're used to solving problems and they're building things, right? So to them, when the customer speaks, a lot of their reaction is they don't know how to use it right. Or,
it's rare. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. It's a difficult thing, barrier, but I think the most successful manufacturers I've seen, and the ones that really come through and get a business that grows, are the ones who their salespeople are their ears, right, in their feedback loop, and then they use it like that respect. That's the way to grow. It does grow sales, but more of an indirect way, right? Because then it's back to work and get the customer what he needs, get the solution.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the reason that engaging emotionally is so important, because it ties in directly with what you were just saying. If you are an empathetic brand, right, that word's becoming ubiquitous, and I think a lot of people are discounting its value. This is not a trend in my mind. There's a little set of statistics that I absolutely love, and I think it makes it very clear why it's important. If your customer, if you really understand them and you're solving their problem and you're speaking their language, they're 33% less likely 33% less price sensitive.
Yes.
44% less likely to go to a competitor, and 300% more likely to recommend you or refer you to someone else.
Yeah.
If they're emotionally engaged. So why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah, exactly. And, you listen to people, Don Williams is another guy I know out of Dallas. I forgot where he lives, but, he says that the same thing. He talks about wowing your customers and really, really going to the nth degree to do it. And I think that manufacturers for a long time are, and still to this point, are so caught up in doing this, whatever they do, that they don't think about that part that really closes the deal. Because we're a bunch of technical people at heart. That the manufacturer, the people that get into manufacturing and start those businesses are usually because they're a good fabricator, machinist, whatever it is. That's the way they started years ago, and some still do now. And I think they don't understand that whole part of sales, because they don't get into it because they're a good salesperson.
Right.
Or they connect with people well.
Right. And truth be told, not all of them are good operations people.
But yeah.
You know, because I find,
Yeah.
and Allison and I have seen the same thing. You get called in, it's like, well, what's the problem? We need more sales. And then you look at it, and it's like there should be no problem getting more sales, but they're so caught up in their own shorts internally on operations stuff. It's like, you know, until we fix this, you know, turning on spigot might be counterproductive, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's where the frustration, you know, comes from too. It's like they expect it to be plug and play.
Yeah, don't sell now, but when we need it, get on the phone and get an order. You know.
Yeah,
Right.
Exactly. And it is in a certain way. It's like we look at it from a different. At Exit Your Way, we're looking at, you know, these are businesses. We work with a lot of manufacturers and other types of companies as well. But you know, there's a limiter on these type of businesses, and it has, you know, that we find because we're looking at growth. You know, and because we're doing that, because we're deal guys, and our buyers are looking for growth. That's you know,
right.
Everybody's looking for that in the market. So you need to build a company that's growth oriented. But you know, what's interesting is, you know, again, it's the lack of understanding of the sales. It's a lack of understanding, but it's also putting their heads down and having so much control over things that when you get to a certain size in your organization, you can't grow anymore and control things. And then you need to become a growth manager, or you just a general contractor.
If it becomes the capacity of one, then you're limited. You know, and that's a point of inflection because a lot of owners struggle with giving up real authority and responsibility in other functional areas. You know.
Well, and the other thing is that yes, they do, and it's not even like they want to control it. It's fear. You know, if they don't know what's going on, what are those sales guys up to? What are the quotes? You know, it seems like the sales are going up. Sales are going up. You think they'd be happy, and a lot of times they come in and they're nervous. Because you know, we get the sales now, you know, maybe I can't even deliver it. You know, you know, the pessimistic fear, fear and growth.
Yeah.
Well,
so what have you guys seen in the market lately that's been you know, what are you seeing with the manufacturing people out there? Are they hunkering down? Are they investing in the sales and marketing now to try to grow? What are you guys seeing overall?
Well, I've seen a mix. I've seen a lot of people as soon as COVID hit, I thought, I had hoped naively that many people would say, you know what, this is the opportunity that we've been waiting for, right? Especially if you're still deemed essential, which everybody in my sphere they were all deemed essential. So, you know, that's not to say that they didn't suffer any kind of loss, but they've been busy this whole time. And so I thought to myself, this is an opportunity, man. You could, like, you know, while things kind of slow down a little bit and people are working from home, you could retool your website. Like maybe you had that on the agenda, right? That was part of your strategy. Then when the smoke clears, the COVID smoke, as I call it, you're rocking and rolling and ready to give them a better experience. Instead, what a lot of people did was they pulled back and just sort of played possum. Well, we're just going to wait and see. And I thought, what are you waiting for? The world's not coming to an end, right? We've experienced maybe not this exact thing before, but I think a lot of fear just froze them. They were going to wait and see. What about you, Ray? What is your take?
Likewise, it's real uneven. Similar response. The companies that have continued to power through it, the common thread was prior to COVID, they had developed very close synergistic working relationships with their key customer segments. So they had a finger on the pulse of what was going on, and they were already kind of in growth mode. So there was a brief hiccup, but you know, I know people that are moving into new buildings. I got a friend in industrial real estate having a record year because of expansion, you know, for manufacturing firms that are out there. The big thing they're struggling with, you know, now that the new reality is kind of settling in, and you know, Allison and I have talked about this with, you know, some of our mutual friends. You know, Mike Roberts is one of them. The selling is different. now.
Yeah.
Their sales guys are kind of, they can no longer sit around twiddling your thumbs and go, well, I can't make any calls. And it's like, well, you better do something. What's the new way of engaging, with clients? And that changed in an instant, and it looks like that change is going to stick. So if they're behind the curve in that regard, it's problematic for them right now.
Yeah.
Well, as Mark pointed out, and in our Game Changers conversation every Thursday that we're doing this month, he pointed out that when the tide went out, you could see who was swimming naked, and he's coined the phrase, which I know there was a book about it before, but his take is different, and I really dig it, is selling naked. So how do you know if you're selling naked? And that's one of his things that he talks about, and Ray and I see it every day. I think, what is the percentage? He said like 60%, based on a recent study that he did or has access to, 60% of salespeople are not equipped or able to sell digitally. 60.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous if, that's your main bread and butter. And we've since kind of crossed over. And if you're selling naked, you're marketing naked.
Yeah.
And you are, it's embarrassing, can be, and it can be very costly, and nobody has time for that. So that's like a whole book. I hope you write, but it's true.
Well, we noticed too. Noticed recently too, even with some of the younger folks, right, who you would expect, some of the younger salespeople we're working with, and you would expect them to be all tuned in to making this transition. And some of the more senior, sales folks are like, this are, let's get going, because this, I'm going to get on Zoom, I'm going to get on this, I'm going to do that. We're going to, I'm doing more digital work and social media stuff, because I got to be able to reach out one way or another. And the other ones, I was surprised, because we would come on. I'd actually say, I want to hear what you got to sell, because I'm interested. No follow up. Get on the call. Don't turn their cameras. Can't see them.
Wow.
It's like, mind-boggling. But I'm not surprised by those numbers that you're citing there.
That was a surprising thing for us. I mean, we routinely talk to salespeople just because two things: we may be interested in something, but B, we want to see how they're selling. Right? You want to understand what's happening. I mean, I can't tell you how many marketing emails that I'll read through just to see the wording they use and things like that. Because, and when you take this back to where you guys are at in manufacturers, some of them haven't got past the point of printing out a flyer and taking it to somebody and showing it to them before this. So we're like talking about, Mars and the Earth, literally. And so what are you seeing? I mean, are you guys seeing a lot of demand, or people are waking up to the fact that I've got to change? We're not going to be out physically doing this nearly as much as we used to, at least for a while. Are you seeing people jump into it now, or are they still kind of holding back?
I think what Ray said, I think it's a split, at least from my view. So I can only speak from that, my experience. I see a lot of people. Yeah, I'm starting to see the smoke clear. I'm starting to get that message from a lot of my clients too. So that's good news. They've put some things off for a while because they really just, they were kind of waiting to see. Yeah. And there's a lot of people too that I think are just simply afraid. I think they're afraid of looking foolish. I think they're afraid of trying something that they don't know how to do or they've never done before, like start a podcast, right, Ray?
Yeah.
And I think I think too, I don't know if that depends on your age, because I know the older I get, I don't know, maybe it's a mix. You're fearful to look foolish or that something will fail. And manufacturing, at least the clients I've worked with, have typically, they take so long to put something into play that this is now like, we got to snap this up. And I think that feels a little scary, like, well, whoa, I don't know if we can do this that quickly. I'm like, yeah, you can. We got to try. And as long as it's sensible, and the customer is front and center as the hero and we're speaking their language, it's not going to fail.
Yeah.
Well,
couple good comments coming on from the there's some folks tuning in, but Ira Bowman, our partner in crime. Yeah, hard to sell to strangers, you know, he's saying, and learning how to make friends, right? Which is, you know, more difficult and challenging too. But
there's another piece to that too. You know, for a lot of companies that I get involved in, you know, we talked about this the other day. You know, who on the call has ever changed insurance companies or mobile phone carriers? All of us. Why? Well, because in those industries, they typically treat the new customers better than the old customers.
Yeah.
You know, is the thing. So odds are, you know, I haven't come across a company yet that didn't have another 20% of upside with customers they already had.
Yeah.
Because they never bothered to dig any deeper than the one buyer or the one engineering group, you know, that they were working with. So it's like, holy crap, if you want to move the needle now, start there. You've got the vendor number, you know, and everything else. So start with your friends.
That's so interesting that you said that, because I was not in a manufacturing client the other day. We've got a client that's in a completely different industry, and I was telling them the same thing. I said, you're doing business with the biggest companies in the world, literally. And you're doing business with 2 people in that company. There has to be 100 at that level. That you got to figure out how you get the person's name that they work with, and it was like I don't know what, it was like I was from Mars again. And there's so much more business that you can do in these companies like that. But I come back to what Allison and you and the topic of this is connecting to the heart of your customer, because I mean, Don said something a while ago. Ira Bowman practices way better than I do. But connecting to the heart of your customer, and I'll tell you what, I thought it was BS a year ago if you would have told me we need to develop a customer persona and figure out, okay, what's this customer do? Where are they at? What are their problems? All this. And once you do it, you go, this really makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you start
marketing to them easy.
Yeah.
What's that?
It makes marketing to them easy.
Yes.
Yeah. And selling.
Well, and you look at where you spend your money, right? So if you're in a manufacturing company and you know my target is X, you find out where they're at. You may not be on Instagram or Twitter or Pinterest. You might be on LinkedIn, and because that's where they talk and that's where they hang out, or it might be someplace totally different. But when you start to do these things and you talk about the things like you're saying, Allison and Ray, and it's going through this marketing and going all the way from the customer perspective, like you do with these manufacturers, that is how they really understand who they're selling to. Because I can bet, and I'm going to ask you this question, how many times do you come in and the salespeople will tell you this is who they sell to, and you go through a customer avatar or persona exercise and it's a lot different?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Or marketing thinks that it's this, and then when we bring sales into it, we learn what it really is.
Yeah.
So that's happened more than one time.
Or they get sneaky and get aspirational.
Well,
Well, this is who we want to sell to. You know, everybody wants to they wanted to be aerospace and medical.
Yeah.
Well, and then if you go up and talk to C-level and ownership, they have a completely different story too.
Yeah.
All 3 of them. So, yeah.
Well, and 2, when you get past, this is what we do when we do persona development, is we start with something called an empathy map. And what the empathy map is for is to figure out, we have these like 4 quadrants. Yeah. What are your customers currently hearing about you? What are they seeing from you? What do they feel? And what are they actually thinking about? And then we take that information and we create a difference map. The difference map allows us to then dive deeper and understand, why do you actually exist? And what problem do these folks really have? It may not be, like I'll give you a great example. I have a really large drywall manufacturing client. They're incredible. And what we figured out in looking at the voice of customer survey that they had conducted before they brought us on, which was like candy for us.
Oh, yeah.
It was from the customer's mouth and so much good stuff of why they loved buying from this company and the problems that they were having. And so we identified that, well, this is, I can't say it right now because we're still getting ready to launch it. But the point is that this is what your customers are doing.
Yeah.
You make it easy. You make this part of the construction process easy. And everybody was like, huh. I said, that's it. No one else is talking about making it easy. Easy ties into all the other great things that you do for them.
Yeah.
But it's motivating and it's simple and it's memorable. And that's what somebody wants. I want this part of the process to be easy. So I'm going to go with you.
That's a great example. It's so great.
Yeah.
It's such a great example because they're worried about making drywall.
Yeah.
Right. And that makes sense. I get it. You know, we're always more worried about ourselves and what we do. It's just like back in the day, I used to talk about if I would meet somebody and they'd say, well, what do you do? Oh, it was all about me. It was all about felt. It was all about marketing. And you start to watch them glaze over. And what we realized, oh my God, like, this took a long time. And this is what we do for a living. But sometimes it's really hard to do it for yourself. And what we realized is no one wants to hear about marketing. They don't give a crap. They don't want more of it. What do they want more of? Sales. That's what we need to talk about. This is how we'll help you do that. So we are like living proof, and Ray as well. We've lived it. We road test it. We are you because we've made mistakes and we've had successes and we've been afraid to do things. So if we don't tell you to do anything that we haven't tried ourselves and proven.
Very cool. So real quick here, because we're getting closer to the end here, but so you guys are gonna, when you help somebody go into a manufacturer and help them, you're gonna start where and kind of end where with what you do. Just so I understand, I don't quite understand it completely.
We like to start with the foundation, right? We call it shoring up your infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And because the reason that we do that, somebody comes to us and they'll say, we need a new website, a giant new website. We say, okay, why? Well, they tell us why. And then we say, okay, well, let's take a look at your substance. What's your current website made of? And they kind of look at us like, what do you mean? And we're like, all right, content. It's not just words. It's the words. It's the pictures. It's the messaging. It's the tone. What's your personality? They look at each other. Well, I don't know if our brand has a personality. Well, okay, what's your culture? So as we kind of peel back the layers, and it becomes very evident. And now, unless somebody has all these things dialed in, let's jump into that website. But what we often find is, okay, well, what's the value proposition that sets you apart? Like, what's the first thing we're going to say on that website?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, they get confused. They want to know, what is it going to look like? And we say, no. That's like baking a cake without the right ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
So without the substance, your website, for example, it's nothing but a speaker. It's an amplifier. What's it amplifying? Nothing that people care about if it's like a brochure or if it's features and benefits bingo. So Ray and I start with the foundation of your brand. And oftentimes people need a retrofit. They may just need like a partial where we kind of keep the logo, we keep the tagline, we build customer personas because they don't have any.
Yeah.
We take them through a breakthrough boot camp and we include salespeople. And we did one up in Oregon. God, was it last year or 2 years ago?
Yeah.
It was one of my favorites because the group pulled us each aside individually and said, my God, this is the coolest thing ever. And we're like, well, that's great. What do you love about it? And they said, we've never all been in the same room like this before and worked on strategy together. And it was so great to get that feedback. And we thought, okay. And they're like, thank you. Thank you for coming. This is like, my brain is on fire. This is so good. So I think really helping you see what's right in front of you that maybe you couldn't because, it's like right in front of your nose. And I think we tend to make it too complicated if we're the manufacturer, and we help you creatively articulate what's really great about you in a way that makes sense and emotionally connects with your customer. So we really just take you through the process. Then we create the strategy, and then we create the content if you don't have anybody to do that. And then we can help you execute, or we can hand it over to your in-house team, no agency required, which again, nobody wants a barnacle on a ship unless they need you. And then Ray's expertise is in several areas. He can work with operations and sales to actually implement the plan, and he's really good at it. He's also really good at helping international manufacturers, especially out of Malaysia, where he has a lot of experience, to help them transition and take advantage of this system, but in a way that people in the United States, that appeals to them. So, I mean, again, that's a whole nother conversation, but he's brilliant at it. And I just hogged that whole answer. So you need to talk, Ray.
It was awesome.
I was like,
what she said.
Right, no words on it.
Sorry. I get all excited.
That's all right. Hey,
Cool.
we all do. It's, you know, it is such a blast. It's just being able to provide some informed perspective, you know, for them. You know, we are passionate about making those people the heroes of their story in their company, and for them to make their clients the heroes, and that's just how it feeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, and you know, a lot of times they're settling. I think that's one thing that we realized a while ago is they're settling when they say, well, what's the ROI? And I say, well, don't you mean cubed? And they say, what? What do you mean cubed? And I said, well, if you're only looking at your return on investment, you are leaving so much money on the table. And they're like, all right, tell me more. And I said, you have the opportunity to also get a return on your innovation and your influence. So let's cube that. I don't know if I can cuss on here, so I won't. Let's cube that stuff and let's really move the needle in a bigger way, because it's like they're forgetting about all this other opportunity. And so that's what we help them uncover too.
You know, I think a lot of it's about mojo. You know, probably a bad term, but manufacturers get stuck in this rut of this incremental performance. And I get it. In operations, it's like, boy, if you can get 3% better a year, you know, across a big organization, that's a big lift. And, you know, yes and no. I think what's required, and where you really need an outsider, if there's willingness, but you don't know what next steps to take on the part of leadership or preferably ownership as well, then to come in and say, you know, what if we could give you a path to double your business in 3 years properly? You know, start thinking a little bigger, you know, and it's like, you know, what we've both seen, Allison and I have both seen in those instances, if there was want to and support, you know, from ownership, it's not hard to create a path and a process, get the plate spinning, you know, and make it happen. And by the end of that third year, everybody's like, hey, look what we did. And then they go duplicate again. And so let's try and double it again. And that is possible. You know, the first piece of data that most manufacturers get wrong is their estimation of how much of the market they own. Yeah. You know, oh, we've got 30%. No, you don't. You know, you probably don't even have rounding error. You know, in terms of what's out there, and then you prove it to them, and then it's like, oh. But then it's, you know, let's go find the rest of that. Let's scoop up another chunk that big.
Yeah. We get that too, and we're getting ready to sell. It's like, how much market share do you have? You know, what's your plan? Have you ever done any studies? Who's your competition? All the basic stuff that a buyer's going to want to know. A lot of them haven't even a clue that who the competition is. They don't pay you. They don't care.
Especially now with Google, I'm like, oh my God. It's like there's so much you could find out for free, let alone if you spend a couple grand, you know, or more to do a comprehensive study. It's a big world. It's a big world, and it's even easier to sell internationally now. So
You know. Well, I think what you were saying, Allison, too, is like the light bulb kind of goes off when they all sit in the same room and start talking to each other. I know that, you know, the manufacturer's mindset. And it's not just a small business owner, successful small or medium-sized business owner. When they get problems, they put their heads down and they go to work. They don't walk into the other room with their team and realize the answers are right in front of them. There's the resources that are there, right? And now that room's even gotten bigger, with folks like yourself. I mean, that's what we're trying to do at Exit Your Way, is introduce talented people like you guys. Hey, pick your head up off the desk, look around, figure out what the resources are there that are so available. That's what's exciting about us, because we just spark it, and then the fire goes. Then you really do. Like you said,
it doesn't have to be complicated. I think that's the thing, is we demystify this complicated idea of marketing and sales and just break it down. It's very transparent.
And you don't have to have the answer. You don't have to come up with the answer. Ask somebody. And it's simple. And it might be the person, it might be your coworker sitting right next to you. Just go ask them, and it'll make your lives easier, and everybody wins. It's all good.
Exactly.
Well, it's been awesome talking to you guys. Man, it is. I was waiting for this for a long time. If you've seen me and Kurt Anderson going at it, or Ray with you guys at MFG OutLoud, this is something I love. Yeah. Never I did. I cursed. I hit it. I didn't even think about it. But
there's been cursing on this show, by the way. It's happened. It's usually Damon, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's usually me because I get excited. I don't forget. But it's great to have you guys on.
Thank you.
Because I feel like there's a new hope for manufacturers when we see you guys out there helping people, and others that you talk to, and people like Kurt Anderson showing people how to use e-commerce and manufacturing. This is something that we have to get into, because the manufacturer in the middle of Illinois or Indiana or Washington or wherever the heck they are, they can sell around the world now. When you look at the things that are available to them, if they connect with their customer, like you're saying, Allison, and really understand them and help them solve their challenges. So it's so awesome to have you guys on. Again, today with us on the round table, we've got Allison Deford from Felt Marketing, Ray Ziganto from Lenara International, the host of MFG OutLoud. So great to have you guys on today. Thanks so much for stopping by the round table. And we can have you on again for another couple hours. It would be so much fun. But we're going to sign off for now. And just thanks again.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.